WavyOcho. I'm gonna react to After Hours Should Have Failed.
March 20th of 2020, The Weeknd would release his fourth studio album, After Hours. The record was unlike any other Weeknd record before, as not only did it carry a narrative within its songs, it created a story on the visual department. Additionally, the record stood above the rest of his previous projects in that the release of After Hours saw The Weeknd fully embrace being a pop star. When I look at you in your eyes. However, above everything else, what really sets After Hours as an album apart from most albums in the history of music has everything to do with what the world around After Hours looked like. And to understand that, let's rewind to the beginning. The year was 2019 and The Weeknd hadn't released a studio album since the release of Starboy in 2016. A project that saw The Weeknd reinvent his image and style in what was a successful record commercially and critically. Even in today's charts, we see the success of the album. After the record, however, The Weeknd kinda took a break from releasing albums. He still maintained a profile by being on songs with Travis Scott or even Kendrick Lamar, but as far as projects go, Weeknd fans would have to settle for My Dear Melancholy. Outside of that, no signs pointed towards a Weeknd release, or at least that's what they had to settle for until the release of a Mercedes-Benz commercial with an unreleased Weeknd song.
What do you mean I drive a Mercedes?
We'll get back to that song later, but the lead single for that new album wouldn't take too long to get out into the world because on November 27th of 2019, The Weeknd would release Heartless. The song rose all the way to number 1, topping Billboard's Hot 100 in what was kind of a 180 in terms of hit songs for The Weeknd. As unlike previous chart toppers for The Weeknd, this song was essentially a rap song.
Trying to be Michael Jackson with those moves, bro. The Weeknd trying to do the Michael Jackson, moves.
Of course, this is thanks to the production of Metro Boomin, but what the song really does is that it introduces people to what this new era of The Weeknd is going to sound like. The video for the song also introduced the storyline that would span across several music videos for the project, and we'll talk about that aspect later, but for now, we can focus on the second single for the album, Blinding Lights. Although you probably recognize the song as a massive success, when it released, the song really did get overshadowed by the lead single. It was kind of like a B-side essentially. Now, someone like me could have told you this song was going to be special, but for the most part, people kind of didn't care, which I guess makes sense because Christmas music was going crazy at this time. Anyways, in February of 2020, another teaser for the album came through, announcing the name of the album, After Hours, as well as releasing the title track for the album. More notably, the track also came with the announcement for a release date, March 20th, 2020. And before we talk about the release of the album, we need to talk about the world around it. The year was 2020. It was supposed to be a regular year. Nothing necessarily special except that it was the start of a new decade. However, as you probably know, that was not the case. Mainly because of a virus that started spreading across the world and shutting places down. For North America, that virus wasn't really a concern for most people until this happened.
Very sobering news. The NBA has decided to suspend gameplay following the conclusion of tonight's games.
Now, after months of news about a virus spreading across the world, the issue became something that nobody could ignore, as the NBA shutting down basically brought the severity of it to the forefront of people's mind. In the following week after the NBA suspended its season, so did basically any public area that was around in 2020. Soon enough, most of the world went into quarantine. People were scared, confused, sad, angered, and most of all, most people didn't know what was coming next. In a week after all this chaos ensued, The Weeknd was set to release After Hours. This could have been a disaster for his career, as physical sales weren't really gonna be a thing, at least not to the degree that they would have been like a month earlier, but also the content within the album could feel out of touch if it wasn't the right content. So in a way, The Weeknd was already facing an uphill battle. And for the industry, After Hours would kinda determine what a quarantine.
And he's leaking his mouth, his face, next to his eye, like nose, all leaking while wearing a tuxedo. Though he's wearing a tuxedo though.
For them. So with that being said, let's take a deep dive into After Hours. The After Hours story tells the tale of a man's journey in heartbreak, starting with Alone Again. The track lays out the foundation of the story being told, as we follow the journey of a heartbroken man trying his best to cope with the sadness of heartbreak. Not only does it set the setting, but it also introduces our main character that we'll follow throughout the whole album. The current position that he's standing in is something that will be expanded throughout the next couple of tracks, as they serve as kind of a flashback to everything that happened. Those tracks explain the relationship between our main character and the love interest in question, and how everything fell apart.
So like Ariana Grande. Did y'all peep that? With the shadow, like that girl looks like Ariana Grande.
However, by the time we get back to the lead single in Heartless, we see how our main character handles the situation. The Weeknd reverts back to the toxic version of himself that we've seen throughout his previous bodies of work. Mainly, we see the Weeknd embrace indifference, as he shows no care for the situation at hand. Regardless of his attitude though, when we fast forward a few tracks to Blinding Lights, it's clear that the I don't care attitude was just a front, as he is desperate for the love that he once had. Maybe you can show me how, baby. And in the tracks following Blinding Lights, we see how the fallout has affected the love interest. And it's through the lens of this person that we know our main character doesn't really have a chance, and he's just grasping at straws. Once he realizes that the love that once was will never be again, we see him experience a downward spiral that ends in our main character's dying breath. Anyways, that was the storyline within the songs of After Hours. But outside of the album, it is worth noting that it was a massive success. After Hours was undoubtedly the biggest album of 2020. The album basically became the quintessential quarantine album. When I look at you in your eyes. And honestly, I'm kind of breaking down this album and selling it short by saying like it was an album that people only listened to in quarantine. Because although things were starting to open up in 2021, After Hours was still producing hits. And what sparked off that second win, that second run, was the music video for Save Your Tears. In addition to the story told in the songs through After Hours, the music videos also had their own. I wouldn't focus too much on the story. However, for those who do choose to like deep dive into the story, The Weeknd has you covered, because his public appearances mirrored that of what was going on in the video. And a big part of that was because of the world that After Hours was in. And that journey would conclude at the Super Bowl halftime show. He wore the trademark red suit for the After Hours era, and as he closed the set with the biggest song of his career, Blinding Lights, it made me realize that there will never be an album like After Hours. Yo, shout out to...
Okay, that's the vid. Yeah, bro. So like, yeah, comment down below what y'all think about The Weeknd, bro. His albums and all that shit. Me personally, I was never a big fan of The Weeknd. If y'all didn't know that, I never find his song to be. His songs is not valid to me, bro. Song's boring. I ain't gonna hold you, but feel me, like So yeah, bro. If you're watching this and if you're a fan of The Weeknd, let me know, bro. Comment down below what's your favorite song, bro. Alright, make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, you know the vibes. We're just checking out you are.